Hi everyone, welcome back to another video review. Today we're reviewing the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade update, specifically the Intermission DLC, which we all call the Yuffie DLC, and that's what I'll be calling it, the Yuffie DLC. I didn't expect to see an update for Final Fantasy VII Remake for a very long time, following its successful release in 2020. Then when I finally saw the announcement at PlayStation State of Play that we would not only get a PS5 upgrade, but also get this DLC that follows Yuffie, I was super excited and I was like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. Yuffie Kisaragi is a ninja warrior from Wutai, and she's an optional playable character in the original Final Fantasy VII game. But unfortunately, this DLC was only available to PlayStation 5 players, which is a huge bummer because I can confidently report after beating it that it could have been on the PS4. There's nothing particularly advanced about this DLC that makes me believe that it couldn't be on the PS4. Before I talk about the DLC proper, I am gonna go on a little bit of a rant, so bear with me please, but just keep in mind that I absolutely adored this DLC. Right around the time that this DLC and PS5 upgrade were announced for Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was also announced that Final Fantasy VII Remake would be coming as a free PlayStation Plus game. It sounded like perfect timing. Okay, great, we're getting this game for free, and if you have a PS5, you can just upgrade it right away. No, that's not how it works. You can only get the PS5 upgrade if you already purchased the game. So if you claimed it on PS Plus and you hadn't already purchased the game, you'll still have to buy the game anyway in order to get the PS5 upgrade. I think things would have been made a lot more simple if they just allowed everyone to upgrade to the PS5 version, regardless if they had paid for it before or if they claimed it on PS Plus. And then just charge $20 for the DLC for literally everyone, doesn't matter. I think this would have motivated more people to just simply buy the DLC so that when they finally got a PS5, they could have just played the upgraded version and then hopped into the DLC. But instead, Square Enix is tricking people into paying full price for an older game that's already available for free on PlayStation Plus. Think about this for a second. If you're the person who falls into the camp of me, you've already purchased Final Fantasy VII Remake, therefore you are eligible for the free PS5 upgrade. You only have to pay $20 for the DLC. So what does that mean for people that have to pay $60 to not only get the license for Final Fantasy VII Remake to be eligible for the upgrade, but also for the $20 DLC? That means that they're paying, yeah, $20 for the DLC just like everyone else, but then $30 for a PlayStation 5 upgrade? That's really bad, especially considering that like maybe Death Stranding Director's Cut is only $10 for a PS5 upgrade. So like, what are you doing? And how are you motivating people to buy this upgrade and DLC when it's already available for free on PS Plus? People are just gonna play the PS4 version and then skip out on the DLC altogether because it's not worth it. Anyway, enough about that. Next time, I hope that they really think about it and are more consumer friendly. Just give people an old game for free. Let the PS5 upgrade be no more than $10 or hopefully nothing at all. And let us pay for the DLC separately. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. One other thing that's frustrating about this is Square Enix didn't make it at all clear how much the DLC would be by itself for people who were already eligible for the free PS5 upgrade. Instead, we had to wait until Intergrade release to see how much the Intermission DLC would be by itself. And then trying to figure out how to claim the full Final Fantasy VII Intergrade package was also a pain in the butt and very confusing. The only way that you can claim it is to download the PS4 version, choose an old save from the cloud, and then change to the PS5 version to claim the Intergrade package. Then from there, you can purchase the $20 Yuffie DLC, or Intermission DLC is what it's proper called. And the DLC is absolutely worth $20, but I just wish the process would have been more simplified, clear, and consumer friendly. And Final Fantasy VII Remake is not the only PlayStation exclusive title with these issues. Okay, rant over for real. Let's talk about this DLC. It was kind of all worth it in the end because then I was brought right into the magic that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Except now everything had improved textures, which should have been in the original game, but it's fine. It felt good to come back, explore Sector 7, and take on Shinra. The DLC takes place parallel to the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake, around Chapter 8 right after you fight the Airbuster boss. Yuffie Kusaragi and her friend Sonan Kusakabe come from Wutai and they're there to gather the ultimate materia from the Shinra headquarters. This leads the Wutai ninjas to joining with Avalanche, but we won't be playing as any of the original characters. The DLC is only 2 chapters long, but there are a few side quests that you can complete to expand your time. I'm kinda glad that the DLC didn't force us to complete too many boring side quests in Sector 7, unlike the main game. Only a few side quests are available, and they're pretty quick to complete. Yuffie has the option to challenge others to Fort Condor, a simple strategy minigame that's very, very fun. There's also Happy Turtle flyers sprinkled around Sector 7, and you find these flyers by listening to this quirky music, and the louder you hear the music, the closer you are to the flyer, and then you pick it up, turn them in, side quest complete. The only other side activity besides completing Fort Condor and collecting the Happy Turtle flyers is to go back into the battle challenge simulator with Chadley. And once you beat the battle simulator challenge, you will unlock a new summon. The Yuffie DLC doesn't give you the option to play it on hard mode from the beginning, but once you complete the DLC, you can go back and play it on hard mode, and you can go back into the main game around chapter 17 to fight a new boss in the battle simulator. But my favorite side activity is hands down Fort Condor. You're going around and you're seeing characters that you've previously met in the main game and challenging them to Fort Condor so that you can become the Fort Condor Grandmaster. You're not really doing anything drastically different in this DLC because you're still exploring the same areas and fighting the same Shinra goons. But what makes this gameplay feel completely refreshing from the main game is that Yuffie fights completely differently from any of the other characters. She has a ninjutsu ability where she can activate different elements with her ninja stars, and this makes it very easy to exploit enemy weaknesses because you don't need to use a materia slot to equip elemental materia. She can use her ninjutsu from a distance, but she can also run up close for some fast and devastating attacks, making her extremely versatile and a bit overpowered. The only party member that joins Yuffie in the fight is Sonan, but you can't take control of him in the way that you could with other characters in the main game. You can pause time to activate his abilities and spells, but you can't switch to him to build his ATB bar with basic attacks or get him out of trouble when his health is low. This made combat against some of the later bosses in this DLC harder than necessary because there was only so much that I can do to keep Sonan alive. But I also completely understand why they didn't pour resources into adapting a new combat style like they did for Yuffie. The cool part about playing with Sonan in your party is that both Yuffie and Sonan have a synergize ability where you can both activate abilities at the same time to deal more devastating damage. And because Yuffie and Sonan are both ninjas, these synergized combos look really dope. You still run into some of the main cast of characters in the main game, but you don't get to play as any of them. But I find it interesting that nobody noticed this small girl in a Moogle costume running around Sector 7, but it was still nice to see some of these original characters again. Because this DLC is solely focused on Yuffie, it doesn't provide any new information that's too crucial to the original story. And I think this is a good approach because you don't want DLC to have crucial information to the main game, especially a DLC that's not accessible to everyone. There are a few subtle hints for what's to come in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, but that's about it. I adore every single character in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Yuffie fits perfectly into this mix of amazing characters. She's energetic, silly, clever, and a little bit thirsty. She adds so much excitement and energy and comedy to this DLC, so I'm really looking forward to more Yuffie and how she interacts with the main cast. And although I absolutely loved Yuffie and Sonan, they did introduce a handful of characters that felt a bit unnecessary and weren't very memorable. They even brought in some characters from games in the Final Fantasy VII universe like Dirge of Cerberus, but it's not really clear how crucial these characters would be to the main game. And having these characters introduced to the DLC that didn't feel too memorable or crucial to the game didn't take away from the DLC at all. I just kind of wonder if any of these characters will serve a purpose in future games. I didn't really have fun navigating through the Shinra headquarters again, although navigating through it is different as Yuffie because she can like climb walls and do all this ninja shit. It still felt a little bit redundant going through the same place again. And exploring for extra items and materia isn't exactly welcoming. I was kind of turned off from doing it naturally. Another weird addition is during the last chapter, as you're ascending the Shinra building and fighting off Scarlet's mechanized weapons, is they force you to play a whack-a-box minigame. Don't get me wrong, I freaking like this minigame. I think it's really cool and I did go for the high score, but the placement of it wasn't the best. I feel like it should have just been an optional thing to complete in Sector Sector 7 along with the other side quests. It kind of took you out of feeling the intensity of ascending through the Shinra building. And even though going through the Shinra headquarters again was a bit boring, the funky jazzy music gave this DLC a whole different vibe. It's no surprise that Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC would have good music, the main game has good music, the original game had good music. Final Fantasy VII has some of the best music in video games, period, probably like top 3. So do I think you should play the Final Fantasy VII Intermission DLC? Well, if you can. If it was on the PS4, more people would have played it and been talking about it, and it would have been a bigger deal than it is right now. I absolutely enjoyed the main purpose of this DLC, which is getting to know Yuffie and her main combat style. I loved her so much. I think it's pretty genius how Square Enix mastered this action turn-based hybrid combat style. Yet they still managed to make every single character, including Yuffie, feel and play completely differently from one another. I think if you can get your hands on this DLC without paying full price for the Final Fantasy VII Integrate package, I think it's worth the $20. But if you have to pay $60 for the whole package, don't do it, just wait. They'll lower the price, hopefully. But if you did get your hands on the free PS Plus version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, definitely play that game. It's one of my favorite games that came out in 2020, probably my top 3, along with Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2. And then hopefully they drop the price of the full Integrate package, and then you can jump into the DLC, or they'll offer it for a lowered price on PS4. Who knows? You know, one can dream.
The amazing Yuffie wants you! Join her team and the sky's the limit!
Anyway, thank you so much for watching / listening to this review. I really appreciate it every time. As always, it's appreciated if you let me know your thoughts, not only on the review, but also on the game if you played it. I'd love to chat with you about it in the comment section. And the most important thing is that you take care of yourselves.